Well, Mark, let's go back a little over Geology 101. Remember, we have the continent here, western Washington, and then we have the oceanic plate that's being pushed under it. But that pushing and shoving and all of the stickiness and everything involved is not necessarily even. Now, the University of Washington and the U.S. Geological Survey ran 50 scenarios on supercomputers, and today they released 2 of those. The University of Washington released 2 of those scenarios today. They show the propagation along the massive fault, even how the shaking reaches various cities. Any way you look at it, the shaking along the coast will be bad. But what about Seattle that's inland, the state's population center? That's where the surprise comes in. If the quake starts near the northwest tip of Washington, the shaking in Seattle isn't as bad. But if the quake starts offshore, even off Oregon, Seattle sees worse shaking. Aaron Worth is co-author of the report and ran half of these computer scenarios.
I think the surprise is that there's such a range of possibilities, and I personally did not expect it to depend so much on where the hypocenter is or where the sticky patches on the fault are, but it really does. And so we're seeing variations up to a factor of 10.
So that means depending on where the earthquake starts, that could be shaking that's 10 times worse than in the other scenario with a various range in between. Now, this is not over yet. There still needs to be more study. This is sort of the foundation that a lot of other things will be based on. What they need to go now is then turn this over to geologists who will say, okay, because the soil conditions, let's say here in Everett, are different than they are in Seattle, that are different than where they are in Aberdeen, that will make a difference as to how that shaking will play out. That factors into landslides and the tsunamis themselves and the rate of tsunami inundation. So this is just the start of something much bigger, as big as this is. Live in Everett, Glenn Farley, King 5 News.